Am I sorted out here?
You're good. We're already counting.
He's not supposed to count yet. I haven't even started my scripture yet. In the book of Psalms, David said 3 separate times that his heart was fixed. He said it in Psalms 57 and 7. He said it in Psalms 108 and 1. And he said it in Psalms 112 and 7. King David said in Psalms 57 and 7, he said, "My heart is fixed, O Lord, my heart is fixed." Now the NLT says that when David says his heart is fixed, that's saying he has confidence in God. This particular psalm was said during a portion of David's life when he was hiding from King Saul in a cave. Psalms 108 and 1 says, "O God, my heart is fixed. I will sing and give praise, even with my glory." NLT says it this way: It's no wonder I can sing your praises with my whole heart. And then in Psalms 112 and 7, he's speaking of a wise man. He says, "He shall not be afraid of evil tidings. His heart is fixed." Now, King David, while he was in a cave, he was hiding with his men, and King Saul come in to take care of some business, as we should say. He didn't even know David was in there. David's men said, "You could kill him right now. God's delivered him in your hands. You could kill him." David didn't want to do that, so he cut off a little sliver of his robe, and it convicted him so much. So David talks about his heart being fixed. God has David's confidence, God has David's confidence in him. At this time, when David could have killed him, David could have just done away with him, but he did not want to touch the anointed. A lot of times, we see our brothers and sisters doing wrong or just doing something, and we want to teach them a lesson. We want to touch them, but God says no. Said, you got to have confidence in me. You got to be able to wait upon what I'm going to do. I'll take care of business. And David's heart was convicted over this. Then we find out later on in the New Testament, in Mark chapter 8, verses 23, a blind man was brought to Jesus. Jesus took him outside the city. Jesus spit on his eyes, touched his eyes, and said, "Now what do you see?" Blind man said, "I see men as trees." Well, I think he had it right, because the tree of life was standing right in front of him. But Jesus said, "All right," touched him again. But this time there's a little bit of a distinct difference. Before, when Jesus spit on his eyes and touched his eyes, the man lifted his head and said, "I see men as trees." This time when Jesus touched him again, Jesus made him lift his head. The man was discouraged, thought that everything was going to be fine, which it was going to be fine, but he needed to have confidence. He needed to have his eyes fixed, not just his physical eyes, but his eyes that Jesus wanted him to see with. So here's this man, Jesus lifting up his head, making him lift up his head, and he was restored. Both David and this blind man had their eyes fixed. And I can imagine David in the cave holding a piece of the robe that belonged to King Saul, just grieving his heart, just wondering why he did that. And he said, "Today, Lord, I'm going to fix my eyes." The blind man standing before Jesus when Jesus made him lift his eyes, he said, I could just imagine him saying, Jesus healed my eyes, but today I'm going to fix my eyes. So that's the title of the message today. Today, I'm going to fix my eyes. When the blind man stood before Jesus and he was just discouraged, probably just heartbroken because of the fact that Jesus touched him and everything wasn't completely clear. We don't know exactly why Jesus didn't do everything exactly at that moment. We don't know why he did it a second time. Maybe it was to let that man realize that his confidence was more in what he had heard about Jesus than his actual sight, his insight, spiritual sight. You know, those of you that don't know me, I am legally blind, and I know this is a broken record, and some of you all heard this time and time again, but I promise you I'm going somewhere with this. I am a victim of child abuse. I was left unconscious in a coma for 3 days because of what my mother did. I was left blind and even partially mentally handicapped. It was years before I could understand to do a lot of things. I went through life wishing my eyes were fixed. And I'm not going to lie to you. I still wish that today. I wish I could see like others. But you know, there came a time in the little Berea church when God said, I had a new vision for you. Someday you will see with 20/20 vision or even better than that. But for now, I want to fix your eyes. But before I'm going to fix your eyes, you got to fix your eyes. You got to have confidence in me. And I'm not going to get on to all my testimony. If you've read my book, then, great. And if you haven't, then, I'll lend you a copy. But I'm not going to get into all that. But this past Wednesday, I was not here at church. I was in Lexington at a doctor. It had been over 20 years since I had an artificial eye made. I had to have it removed because of glaucoma when I was 7. I went to the doctor and had a new one made, the one that would fit, that kind of raised the eyelid up. I wanted so much for the stares of the adults to end, and I wanted so much for the little comments that the children would make. Although they were innocent and sweet and they never meant anything by it, you knew it bothered them, and then it bothered the adults for me to be in their presence. Some of the adults just felt so uncomfortable. But while I was there at the doctor, all I could think of is today, I'm going to fix my eyes. Today, I'm going to look better. I'm going to look more normal. And I'm not saying I'm abnormal, but what I'm saying is sometimes people out in the world, they judge us. And they pick up the little insecurities and the little faults in everything that we do, even to what we wear, the way we talk. It's everywhere we go. We can't get away from it, but it still exists. That's all I could think of. And then something happened, Brother Thomas. While at the waiting room, I saw several adults come in and out, getting the same thing that I was getting. But all of a sudden the door opened, and in walks a family. Husband, wife, and 2 little girls. My automatic reaction was, as one of the adults needed a new eye. They're going to get their eyes fixed. Today is their day. So I didn't think much about it until I started noticing. Little Lila was 14 months old. She was barely walking. She was into everything. But she was okay. Mom was real slim and skinny. Probably someone that was burning a lot of calories chasing after 2 children. She was okay. Dad was too busy watching what was on the TV. He was okay. But little Jaden, 4 years old, just this past February, suffered from a rare case of eye cancer. I forget the technical name for it. It's like retinasarcoma or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is. But they had to remove her eye. And I know what she was going to have to deal with, because I was 7 and I had to deal with all that stuff in school. So I kept watching her. And as she went back to the room and they were trying to do a mold and do all the things they had already done to me, I heard her screaming and crying. And I kept hearing, he's not a doctor, but he's a technician. He specializes in things. He said, Jaden, today you're going to get a new eye. All of a sudden, everything that I was there for disappeared. I couldn't think what I was there for. All I wanted to do, Brother Thomas, all I wanted to do was just bring her out and lay my hands on her. All I wanted to do was to lay my hands on her and say, today you're going to get a new sight. I wished I could give that to her. And I know this is a little bit of a strange message, but it's been on my mind ever since I've been to the doctor. Little Jaden, I think about her every day. I know exactly what she has to go through. But we all have got to have confidence in God. We have to fix our heart, our eyes. We have to concentrate on what God has for us and stop this pity beckering and things that even I do. It's time for a change. It's time for a new sight. And I know this is a broken record that you've heard from me time and time again. But things keep coming around where God says, today, I'm going to get a new eye. And today, you need a new eye. And together, we're going to have a new sight for what we need to do.